Hello everybody and welcome back to Juno New Origins, where we've been working on putting this monstrosity into orbit. We just need to put a kiloton into orbit, right? And that is going to be somewhat interesting. Now, we built this previously, but I wanted to remove the engines that were out here and make these be more ground optimized. So we can do something like that, increase the size of this to be around like 175. And the question right now is shock diamonds? Shock diamonds. Okay, so we'd want to probably increase the nozzle throat size up to about here. This would be a burn time. Well, I'm not sure what this burn time in staging would be. So let's, for the moment, think about what this might look like in terms of thrust to weight. So our starting thrust to weight in all stages is 1.67. That seems low. Hang on. Is our staging weird? It might be. Okay, this is just the phoenixes. So the idea here is I'd like to take these 4 large wyverns and move them down to here. Now, this cost isn't great. We're not going to make money off of this, but the question is, what's this going to look like? So 2.29 thrust to weight, allegedly. And the question is, what is the burn time here going to look like, and where's this going to put us? So let's put this out on the DSC launchpad, run a quick test, and see where exactly we are right now. Okay, so this is obviously not very economical, but that's okay. And we're just going to, we don't actually need a pitch slider there. Let's just do something like this, and off we come off of the ground. We can see we ramp up to about 2.4 thrust to weight right off the bat. And we're able to steer since these have gimbaling. The real question is, okay, so we're going to have these burning a little while after separation of these engines. The main question now, okay, these are firing here. That might cause overheat on these engines. That is absolutely noted. We might have to change around that staging. We'll see how that flow is in terms of the exhaust. Okay, apoapsis is looking pretty good. I'm moving us to 45. 4, 3, 2, 1. SRBs are dry. Okay, yeah, so we can see here, these are overheating. So that is understood. I'm watching that damage. Yeah, that's going to explode. So that is fine. I was concerned about that, but that's an easy fix. So what we need to do is we need to come in here and we need to detach all 4 of these engines. That was not what I intended to do. Detach all 4 of these engines, with the idea now being we're going to extend these tanks down until that's roughly even. Yeah, that's pretty good there. Now we're going to put these engines back on, placing them somewhere like, I mean, that's definitely not an ideal location, but somewhere like here or so. Yeah, about like that. Okay. So these are, I'm going to leave the staging where it's at. It's mildly awkward, but I'm going to leave the staging where it's at. Otherwise, that seemed quasi-interesting. I'm still not sure about having enough actual delta V, but let's put this over to 70, and let's try that again. I'm going to put this in 2x speed. Okay, so our main concern right now is monitoring this level of fuel, right? And we're going to ditch this as soon as this is at 0. Okay, I'm going to take us back down to normal speed at this point. Now, I'm going to put us at a 45-degree angle because we want to build up a lot of lateral speed as we punch our way through. We've got a lot of thrust to weight here, and that's absolutely understood. SRB is detaching now. They're out of here. So we light up these tanks, and this fuel should be draining extra out of these tanks, and you can see how slowly that's draining. So that looks reasonably good. Currently, we're at about 60 kilometers. I'm going to drop us down to about a 15-degree pitch. Good thrust to weight. And actually, decent DV. So that is all noted. Okay, so this is currently at 90. That's not too bad. So 3, 2, 1, and side tanks are dry. Let's get rid of them. So now our thrust to weight is much lower at 0.73, and that's understood. The question is, did we build up enough speed to be able to insert this into orbit? We've got a lot of burn time here, 3.6 minutes. Our apoapsis may not be quite as high as we wanted it to be, but actually it looks pretty okay. I'm just holding this attitude for now, even though our apoapsis is now high enough. I'm going to hold this attitude because I'm concerned about this time to apoapsis. 1.77 kilometers per second. That's borderline. Okay, that is definitely borderline. I want to make sure we're draining from these tanks as well. Yes, we are. And this has methalox in it. So one thing we could do, actually, and I'm going to pause the game here. One thing we could do is we could set this to drain and then these to fill. And move that fuel out right now. So something like that. And we can see that goes pretty quickly. Cool. That's now empty. So I'm going to turn all of this off now. So do that, do this, and do this. And then we'll grab this guy and do that. Okay, so that fuel tank is now empty. That is 1 ton of extra fuel. It's not a lot, but it might push us up a little bit further. So the apoapsis, you can see here, time to apoapsis is still decreasing, which is why I've not changed our attitude here. It will likely start going up reasonably soon. We've got a good amount of lateral velocity here. The question is this enough to get into orbit? It might be. It's really close. I don't think it's quite enough, if I'm honest. But it's really, really close. 1 kiloton is a lot to move into orbit, right? No doubt about that. I'm looking at that time to apoapsis and I'm thinking, it's still going down. We need to pitch up a little bit. Still going down. Okay. So yeah, our thrust to weight is definitely low. I'm wondering, how are we doing on battery? 100? Okay. That's fine. Time to apoapsis is still problematic. I'm going to put us at 30. We didn't quite have enough vertical speed, it looks like. So instead of targeting 80, I think we need to target about 100 for this. Here we can see time to apoapsis is holding. We can also see our stage DV is probably not quite enough to get us into orbit. It's going to be really close. But we're just not quite there. Okay, time to apoapsis is now increasing, so that is good, but it's not increasing very significantly. I'm looking at our lateral velocity here compared with our remaining DV, and I'm definitely aware that we are going to need quite a lot more. Okay, ascent trajectory might actually be enough to get us there if we were to more optimize our ascent. I want to see just how close we are. I think we're going to be somewhere around, and I want to drop this down at this point to 0. I want to be working on pure lateral. It looks like we're going to be somewhere around 500 meters per second short. That's not bad. Actually, we're not even. We are about 250 meters per second short here. Okay. We can do something about that. The thing that we're going to do is I'm going to put one more stage here. So we're going to bring in a fuel tank. Like that. There we go. And we're going to move this down to about here or so. And then just a very, very small vacuum optimized engine. So the Pixie engine is a potential option, but I'm thinking maybe the Spirit engine. The Spirit engine is going to, of course, have really crazy burn times, right? So we can see that this specific impulse is currently 10 seconds, but we need to move this into vacuum. Now it's 205. And the question is, what is the burn time of this going to end up being? So where did it put this in the staging? That's actually the exact correct point. So stage 4 has a burn time of 18.71 hours. Yeah, and we can see that the overall amount of thrust to weight is 0. The delta V is only 52.5 meters per second. Well, this is monoprop. I want this to actually be liquid fueled. And I want this to be pressure fed, most likely. What is the best specific impulse? Full flow staged? Okay, full flow staged. That is fine. So our thrust to weight is really, really low. We can increase the size of this up to like 65% or so. That's about the best we can do there. So that gets us up to 83.5 meters per second in that stage. The rest of this we could theoretically do via better efficiency or longer burn times on some of these other stages. So we could increase the amount of fuel if we wanted to on some of these stages. Particularly this stage would be a potentially interesting one. 83.5 meters per second is not a lot of meters per second. I want to be clear about that. But this is a crazy amount of weight, right? We just need to be able to push it a little ways. Not very much. So for the time being, let's put this out on the launch pad. And let's see about a little bit more efficient of an ascent trajectory-ish. Let's put this about here for now. And let's go into orbital mode. And let's launch this. Okay, so off we go. Wonderful. And of course, we're interested in getting rid of this fuel as early as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out of this tank and I'm going to put it into all 4 of these tanks. Like this. And it'll drain that out very, very early, which is what I want. Okay, so that is now drained. Let's get rid of all of these indicators. It's not a lot of fuel in the big scheme of things, but any mass savings that we can have at this point would be phenomenal. So let's just do that, and let's proceed. Okay, so we're keeping an eye for now on this prograde marker. There we go. And eventually, we're going to have these SRBs detach, right? Now, the prograde marker is going to get caught up to us reasonably soon. I'm actually going to move ourselves down towards the prograde marker, about like this. And we're just going to put ourselves at 45 for the moment. 4, 3, 2, 1, and SRB detachment. There we go. And I just want to lock our velocity for the time being to prograde. Okay. So the next measure, of course, is when these run out of fuel. Okay. Noting our apoapsis here, it looks reasonably fine. So now it's 70, and we've got about 10% fuel left on these outer stages. How are we doing in here? Yep, about the same fuel flow. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Outer stages, go away. Okay, so we can see that this apoapsis is pretty decent at this point. That's 90 kilometers. I'm going to continue to hold here for a little bit, but not very much longer. So that's 93. 94, and we can see time to apoapsis is going down, so holding at this point is actually fine. Yeah, being on prograde here, I think, is absolutely okay. Now, our apoapsis is getting up there at this moment, and that's the concern at this point. That is absolutely the concern. Because the higher up we go, the more fuel it takes, right? But also kind of not, because the lower our orbital speed is. But we know that we need to be burning right now because time to apoapsis is decreasing still when we're at maximum burn. So this is fine. We can target a higher apoapsis. All we need is our periapsis to be greater than 80 kilometers. So that's okay for the moment. Just thinking about our overall amount of DV here and thinking about how our orbit is situated, our orbit might be a little too elliptical for sure. But let's just continue to push this up for right now. I want to get this orbital velocity up quite a lot higher. This stage has another 1.3, so that would bring us up to right at around 3 kilometers per second again. We might need to toss in a little bit more fuel in those outer stages, and that's definitely something that we can do. Time to apoapsis is still going down. It's not holding at this moment. So that is noted. We definitely need to continue burning in the manner that we are. Okay, we just crested 2 kilometers per second of orbital velocity. That's fine. I think another big problem that we have here is our thrust to weight in this stage. It is quite low, but we're mostly just trying to get the lateral velocity, and that's reasonably okay. So for the moment, I'm just going to set our pitch to 0. That's very close to where we were. And you can see we're going to start going down here fairly soon. What we need right now is a lot more orbital velocity than what we have. I'm just looking at our DV here. It's going to be about 3 kilometers per second. Let's see what it looks like when we go into our next stage, but this thrust to weight is problematic because we're going down at this point. I would like to have a coast phase in this, but the thrust to weight is too low for that. We can fix that by not changing the thrust to weight, weirdly enough, but or by making the thrust to weight worse, weirdly enough, but that's definitely an option. So for right now, we're just going to burn this out, and I want to see just how close we end up getting. So we've got about another 200 meters per second in this stage. And then the next stage, it's going to be a long burn time, right? How long is that burn time going to be in this final stage? We'll find out. Okay, so that got us to 3,034. Okay, this burn time is 2.6 minutes. That's actually not so bad. The overall DV in this is only about 80 meters per second. So that's not quite going to put us into orbit, unfortunately. And we know it's very, very low thrust to weight, right? This is intended to just be a small amount of maneuvering. So overall, we can see that our periapsis is really, really close, but this isn't quite going to get us there. It's incredibly, incredibly close. I'm going to pop these 2 caps off, and we are going to move this up to around 50 meters of length. Actually, this is about the highest it'll let us go. Interesting. And then we'll put the cap back on there, and then we'll move this up to the highest it'll let us go, and we'll do that. This is going to be awkward, but there we go. Okay, this is likely going to be enough to get us there. Our thrust to weight will be a little lower in these early portions, but that's fine. And I want to make sure that we're moving this fuel out. So let's go ahead and do, this is currently in. Let's do out. This is going to be in, and in. Okay, throttle up, And off we go. We can see that fuel immediately just vacating, which is perfect. And now I'm going to turn that off. I'll keep this. I guess it's useful. Cool. And then we can pin this open, or we don't even need to pin it. We can just do this. Okay, let's move into orbital mode here, and let's keep an eye on our apoapsis. So we're going to have longer burn times, but slightly lower thrust to weight is what this is going to end up meaning. And that's going to propel us a little bit less far early on, but significantly further later is the idea. Okay, so we are at 25% fuel remaining in the SRBs. We see our apoapsis is pretty decent right now. Let's pull this over to 45. And actually, let's just lock velocity to prograde at this point. So that'll be okay. We'll just hold here for the moment. SRBs are going to be burning out very shortly. 3, 2, 1, and they are empty. So off they go. And we'll light up our internal engines here. So we're going to be pulling fuel over this way a little bit longer. This will be just slightly longer burn times overall. We can see time to apoapsis increasing over here. So that's looking good. And in fact, this might be a little too high, a little too much verticality on this. Let's go ahead and drop this pitch all the way down at this point to 0. I want to be getting just lateral velocity from here. So we've got 5% fuel left in these outer areas. You can see this is a little lower on its fuel, so we kept these burning longer. They're out of here now. And now we've got this nice long burn time here. So we're at 1.3 kilometers here. Orbital velocity is about 1,600, and then we've got 1.8 here. That's looking significantly better. Time to apoapsis is decreasing. That's okay. We don't mind that. So we're just going to continue to burn here for a while. It's maybe decreasing a little faster than I would have liked. Let's put ourselves back onto prograde for the time being. I think we were a little aggressive in heading over to the horizon burn. Yeah, I definitely think that. So let's put ourselves at about a 15-degree angle right now, which isn't ideal, but I'm trying to push back this time to apoapsis a little bit. We're at 12 seconds away right now, moving this back up even further. I don't like doing this. This is wasting fuel, essentially, but it is reasonably necessary because we don't want to be at the apoapsis. So for the time being, this is going to have to do. So yeah, that indicates that our ascent profile, we went to the horizon too quickly. We should have just stayed burning on prograde. So we can now see time to apoapsis is going up. I'm going to drop us down to 20-degree pitch. Still increasing, down to 15. Actually, that's 14, but close enough. Still increasing, down to a 5-degree pitch. Holding, going up. Okay. Now down to a 0-degree pitch. Time to apoapsis is holding and increasing. Okay, beautiful. We are out of fuel here, so we'll just push this as much as we can. We can see that definitely brought us further. We could get that ascent trajectory a little bit better for sure. But we're really, really close at this point. So we're at the apoapsis right now. We're starting to go down again, and that's understood. But the question is, do we get there? We might. You can see here that this periapsis is changing fairly quickly. We just need that to go up over 80, right? I don't know that we quite get there. I think this was an ascent trajectory issue, though. I don't think this was a rocket design issue. I mean, the rocket's not perfect, don't get me wrong. But I think that this issue was primarily due to us going too hard on the horizon there. I would normally do that because thrust to weight is there, but our thrust to weight was not there for that. This is incredibly close, but we're not quite going to get there, I don't think. We've got 10% fuel left. We're basically at orbital velocity, but we're not in a particularly circular orbit here. Our apoapsis was reached a while ago. Yeah. So that is just an issue with that ascent trajectory. Let's do this. Okay, we're going to take this to 70 degrees. Actually, I might put it directly on 45 degrees. What would that feel like? Let's lift this off and see what it feels like going directly to 45 degrees. And then I'm going to burn there for a while, I think. We're going to need to get the prograde marker to get up here to where we are, or very close to it. 45 is very aggressive. And we're not pulling the fuel from here. I'm aware of that. It's not that big of a deal, to be honest. But I guess we could do it. So this would be withdrawing from here, and we would be pulling that fuel into these tanks here. So I want to pull it evenly, so we're going to have to do all four, like so. There we go. And out goes that fuel. Fantastic. Now we can get rid of that. There we go. And how are we doing on the SRBs? About 15% fuel remaining. Looks fine. So we can see our apoapsis is a lot lower, but this is because we're putting a lot more effort into lateral speed. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, SRB detachment now. That was a little awkward, but I think we're okay. Cool. So at this point, we can see that apoapsis is, I think the 45 off the pad might be a little ambitious, to be honest. But we'll see. We'll see. We're definitely seeing the heat increase here, but we're going to be punching up through the atmosphere into a much thinner atmosphere very shortly. We can see that that apoapsis is getting quite a lot higher. So it's currently at about 60 kilometers. I'm going to keep burning here until these are burned out for sure. Okay, so they are burned out. Let's get rid of them. This is awkward. Very awkward. It kind of just blew right back into us. Hopefully it'll fall away now. Looks like it is. There we go. It detached. Well, that was certainly very awkward. Well, let's put this up into 2x speed here, and we can see that our apoapsis is... time to apoapsis is currently decreasing. So that is reasonably fine. Looking at the DV here, DV is looking pretty okay. That was an aggressive gravity turn there, and I think it's going to work out, to be honest. I'm going to put us at a 15-degree pitch right now because time to apoapsis not looking so great. So we're just going to hold here for the moment, and we might need to go a little higher up. But for now, it looks reasonably okay. So we've currently got about 1.1 kilometers per second left in this. This looks really good, actually. This is looking like a very, very solid takeoff. Other than the slight snafu with detachment, but, you know, it's all fine. Time to apoapsis is holding. That's a good sign. Going up, so we're going to drop this down to 10 degrees. Holding. Going up. Down to 5 degrees. Holding. And increasing. Pitch at 0. Let's go. So at this point, we're going to get a coast phase, it looks like. Yeah, it definitely looks like we're going to get a coast phase. That time to apoapsis increasing a lot. We've definitely made it. Okay. So that looks good. I'm going to separate this, and we're going to head over to the apoapsis, and we're just going to look to bring this up like this. That's 40 meters per second. Looks good. Go ahead and execute that. So all we need to do now is this tiny little burn here, which this engine is more than capable of doing. Beautiful. Let's accelerate through that, and we just need to bring up this periapsis, and that will be mission complete. We're definitely at orbital velocities at this point. So yeah, that looks fantastic. Slightly more efficient ascent trajectory does the trick, as expected. And we are at achievement now. Fantastic. Okay, so that looks good. Yeah, there we go. We can just end this flight. We can destroy the craft. And there we go. We lost so much money on that, but it's fine. We needed to get the contract completed anyway. It is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we are going to find ourselves what our next contract is going to be. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings. And a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Atala, Andy McGar, Ali Lee, Dark Horse, Xenocyte, Hiro Marutsu, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.